extending yashar koach to everybody who helped us this morning. So to paraphrase Mark Twain, the two most important days in a person's life are the day they were born and the day they discover their purpose. See, everybody has a purpose for being. Everyone has a job to do. Everyone has value, and everyone is needed. And as long as I'm making big and bold, challenging statements, I'd add a little bit of theology, and that is that God has a plan. And if we really believe these propositions, we would treat each other differently, and we would probably be kinder to ourselves. As I mentioned in my 2-sentence weekly message this week about Joseph, Joseph had a deep and abiding and maybe even a delusional sense of his own personal achievements and what they would be. He had abilities he believed in that would in no way be deterred, and he would continue to plot his course towards personal accomplishment and an incredible impact on society because of what he believed about himself. It was the moment when he dreams of others, though, that he begins to accomplish great things. Once he decides it's no longer about his dreams of grandiosity, but about others, is he able to transform the world? When he stops thinking only of himself, that's when he literally and figuratively emerges from the dungeon. You know the very ancient story of a town that is turning on itself. They approach the rabbi in the town and they ask him, what can we do to limit some of this self-hatred? After considering the issue, the rabbi returns a few days later and says that he has received a prophetic revelation. He instructs the people that in fact God has sent the Mashiach, the Messiah, to their town. Without hesitation, the people inquire of the rabbi, who is it? The rabbi responds, well, that's the rub. I wasn't told who it was. It could be anyone in this town. Within days, kindness and love filled the town. Everyone started treating each other as if it's possible they were the Mashiach. Not knowing who the Messiah was forced people to consider that every person could be that messenger of God. As the title of the song by Joan Osborne tells us, what if God were one of us? My challenge, my ask today is, can you internalize the idea that everyone, even your deepest nemesis, has a contribution to make, has value and meaning and purpose, and maybe even a bigger challenge would be, how would you behave? How would you feel if you knew your own real purpose? Rabbi Cook called this shlichut, what you have been put here for. There is one sentence, one passing moment in the reading this morning that set off this existential realization for me. After Joseph has distanced himself from his brothers, both literally and figuratively, telling them that they're different than he is, that he's made for a higher purpose than they are, they go off to do the work of the family business. And Joseph stays behind because he wasn't meant for such menial task. Jacob says to Joseph, go be with your brothers, because Jacob knows what it feels like to be distanced from his brother. And he's trying to prevent that wedge between Joseph and his. And so Jacob tells Joseph, go out and find your brothers. don't stay at home while they work in the field. Joseph concedes, and he goes out looking for them. But yet somehow, while he's daydreaming, as he always does, he loses his way. And the text says something beautiful. Vayimtsaehu ish, v'hineh toeh basadeh. And he happens upon a guy. Just some guy standing there. He's wandering in the fields. He's lost his way. And the rabbis tell us who this guy was. Rashi says he was an angel. He was Gabriel, says Rashi. Building on the Midrash, he says that every person has their own personal angel that's watching over them, their guardian angel, if you will. And those special beings come into our lives at critical moments, like the angel that told Hagar to pick up Ishmael. Everything will be all right. Like the angel that visited Sarah, telling her that she would become pregnant, that everything is going to be all right. Like the angel that told Abraham not to sacrifice Isaac on the altar, but to release him, because everything is going to be all right. Like the angel that wrestled with Jacob as he was about to meet up with Esau. And the angel says everything is going to be all right. Rashi tells us something we all know. That is, there are special beings watching over us and guiding us. There are little angels in our lives. But Ibn Ezra, the super commentary on Rashi, says no. Derech hapshat echad me'ovarei derech. Ibn Ezra says, it's not supernatural. It's just some guy. He just happens to bump into a guy who knows where his brothers happen to be. There's nothing special about him. There's nothing supernatural about him. There's nothing heroic about him. To which Ibn Ezra is saying something very simple. Don't wait for the miraculous to appear in our lives. Don't wait for the supernatural angels to make their appearance. The people who might have the greatest impact in our lives might be just regular people. People we happen to bump into along the way. A person comes into our life exactly at the right moment. They take our hand and they say, I'll walk this way with you. They appear and sometimes they stay and sometimes they just make an appearance and then they're gone. Maybe they become a partner in life, and sometimes there may be a nurse or a doctor or a technician in an emergency room. Maybe they become a long life friend. And maybe they're a therapist when you lived in some far off place. But we all know they're just regular people. Maybe you know them. Maybe you're one of them. And then Ramban concludes. Nachmanides tells us, Yomer kihu to'eh min haderech v'lo haya yodeh ana yelech. Ramban says something beautiful. Stop worrying about the other people. Worry about yourself. Because guess what? Sometimes in life, we get lost. We take a wrong turn. We go down the wrong road. The Talmud tells us of a blind man in a field carrying a torch, to which somebody comes up to him and says, you're blind. What does it make a difference if you have a torch in your hand or not? The blind man responds, because there will be people who come along the way who don't know the path. And I can show them because I have a torch. People lose their way in life. We all lose our way. We get lost. We set out on a course of life, and then life happens. Man plans and God laughs. Next thing we know, we're completely blown off course. Ramban tells us, Ramban reminds us, it happens to us all. Just look for the markers, and the people will help us get back on course. So I ask you to think, who were the role models in your life? Who were your teachers? Who were the people who inspired you in the first place? They will continue to point the direction for us. Just because you've made the wrong choice, gone down the wrong road, doesn't mean you ought to keep going down that road. But the Yismach Moshe, another Hasidic master, teaches me something even better. Tradition offers us something so empowering in this moment. Shehayu achiv mevakshim lehargo. The Yismach Moshe says something incredible. He says, Joseph's brothers were waiting to kill him. They were lying in wait in order to do him harm. So this angel that appears, we pray, would never have told him which way to go. Like every other angel I referred to earlier, they tell us everything's going to be all right, except in this case, this man tells Joseph where his peril is, that his brothers, he knows exactly where they are and gives him the direction. Yismach Moshe points us to something extraordinary. This angel doesn't point him in the right direction. He points him towards harm. We see this guy and we hope he has no idea where the brothers are, because we know how the story continues. We hope against hope that this stranger along the way won't help. So the Yismach Moshe adds just a pause in the story. That's all the Yismach Moshe does. He says, let's just take a breath. ואצלי נכון מאוד שאחר שיצא כל אדם מאליו והוא לבדו נשאר, says the Yismach Moshe. After everyone is left, after this guy has pointed the way and then went on his own, the Yismach Moshe says Joseph was left there by himself. Bakshu oz lishloach bo yad kodem shishamu amrito. He says Joseph has a moment to ponder what his options are. He tells us that after this man gave Joseph direction, the guy just walks away, leaving Joseph alone to decide what to do. Does he do as his father instructs him? Or does he commit an act of self-preservation and walk the other way? The man serves, says the Yismach Moshe, as a pause in the action. It's an opportunity for each and every one of us to reevaluate the decisions we're making in our lives. This man's neutral. He doesn't have an agenda. Joseph has a decision to make. And it's Joseph who has to make that decision. We all know how the story of Joseph ends. Presumably Joseph doesn't, but no matter, it's Joseph who has to make the decision. It makes perfect sense. Because after the interaction, he's left by himself. He has a moment to take stock, to make the right choice. It is in the moment that we all choose. We can all help in the world, but you still have to make a decision about what you believe is best. We can get opinions and we can get second opinions, but it's us who has to decide on our own course in life. Dr. Vivek Murthy, who is the President-elect's choice nominee for Surgeon General, said this week in describing the lesson he learned from his parents who opened a clinic when they came here to the United States. The best doctor is not an authority figure who writes prescriptions, but rather a partner in healing, but sees patients in their fullest humanity and empowers them to take charge of their life. If you are given a prescription, but you're non-compliant, it's your choice. Getting direction is one thing. You still have to choose the way to go yourself. For some, angels will appear and save us from ourselves. For some, those angels are actually real people who save us from burning houses, from car accidents, from earthquakes, from floods. For some, they aren't as heroic. They're regular people who happen to lend a listening ear when we feel despondent. For some, they simply distract us enough to give us a moment to pause, a moment of laughter, so we can gain some perspective and get ourselves a little peace of mind. Look, we all get lost in life. For some of us, it lasts for a long time, and for some of us, it's momentary. For most, it's somewhere in between. But that doesn't matter. We can always find a course correction. In the end, it's on you and me to choose wisely, to take input from the regular people in our lives and to make good choices. After all, we're the choosing people. Shabbat Shalom.